This is Minnesota Distance Elite, and lately they've been crushing it despite having smaller budgets and less resources than many of the other professional running teams.
I saw them like yell at people for just...
But that's not the most impressive part. What's wild is that a ton of this success is coming from NCAA Division II athletes.
How about third? Dakota Lindworm
is in second. Tanner Meyer of Minnesota Distance Elite.
That's right, the underdogs, the long shots, the Davids, the overlooked. We're not talking about athletes from powerhouse schools like Oregon and Colorado. We're talking about Minnesota Duluth, Minnesota State, Northern State. These are the athletes that largely probably shouldn't even be here. Despite that, Minnesota Distance Elite has churned out Division II star after Division II star. And it had me wondering, what exactly is the advantage of these Division II athletes that allows them to excel and compete so well at the professional level? Well, I wanted to find out firsthand from these athletes. First, I wanted to speak with Tanner and McKenna. Both ran for Division II Minnesota State in Mankato, and both have made huge strides in just their first year as professional runners for Minnesota Distance Elite. Tanner dropped 7 seconds off his 1,500 meter PR, going from 3:45 to 3:37, and McKenna, meanwhile, has hit PRs at nearly every distance and has also shown huge growth and development in her workouts, indicating potential for more significant PRs in the very near future. I'd recently heard a rumor that Tanner and McKenna were shoe dogs, so I went to the only place in the Twin Cities that someone who was passionate about running shoes would go, TC Running Company.
So I think the biggest thing with Division II and giving me opportunities, I would say, would be kind of being able to go at your own speed, be competitive at the national level. I feel like with D1, you're kind of stuck with like trying to qualify for a national meet, which is, loaded fields. Obviously Division II is really good fields, but it created an opportunity for me to be able to go to the highest level of my division. I still got to compete at conference, do multiple events instead of just kind of focusing on one. And then it kind of left me at the end of my career feeling like I had more. And I wasn't feeling burnt out from the sport because, I had fun at, the level I was at. Other than, that, it's a little bit of an underdog mentality with Division II. I got to go see D1, runners, go compete with them, show that, I could be at the D1 level. But Division II is just as competitive as any other division, as Division III, NAI, JUCO. So I think that's kind of a big reason why I like Division II, is I felt like I could succeed at where I was at, and still have fun with it. And I think that's really translating now, as we go on into the season and stuff. I've had a couple big breakthroughs, and hopefully I can have a couple more. So
one of the advantages of D2 that I kind of discovered throughout my time there was just being able to kind of develop myself as an athlete rather than kind of just being pushed into a program that either kind of forced you to either fail or like not awful, but like just not perform to how you thought you would. So I feel like, because in high school I was an athlete that just didn't do a lot of miles. I did like the 100, 200, 400, so I wasn't used to the high mileage, which can, I feel like, be either make or break for an athlete. Hence, like, getting injured a lot can be detrimental to your experience. So D2 kind of just helped me slowly develop.
It's more forgiving, is what it sounds like you're saying.
More forgiving, yeah.
And giving you more opportunities to kind of bounce back rather than getting booted out, for sure.
So I was like like 45 to 50 miles towards like the end of college. So it's a lot of racing. So you have to kind of balance that, like what you think you can handle and like what coach thinks. So I think that kind of helped me, and also like just developing more one-on-one relationships with your coaches. It's a little bit easier. The team's a little bit smaller, so you're able to kind of bounce back and forth between like coach and you and figure out what you want personally out of the program. So for me, that was D2. I didn't really know that coming into college, so that was really nice to know and kind of figure out too. So.
And then for like a high school kid looking at college options, would you say Division II offers them better opportunities for peaking at the prime of their career kind of later in life rather than 18, 19, 20 years old?
Yeah, I would say, I guess depending on the program too, I kind of got lucky and we were kind of able to figure that out. But yeah, I would say Division II, it's really slept on. Like, I feel like it's either D3 or D1. It's never like that middle. And that's what I kind of is perfect about D2. It's like the very middle. You still can travel to those Boston races and all these exciting things, but still perform well. So
does that lack of publicity, like you're talking about, does that take some of the pressure off in college and allow you to?
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like, like you said, it takes the pressure off. So with D1, it's like I feel like you always have to feel like you have to perform, but D2, it's like you do have to perform, but it's like not always on that high stage level. So yeah.
For sure. Next, I wanted to speak with Kaylee Peterson. Kaylee ran for Division II Minnesota Duluth and had an absolute breakout season last year in her first full year with Minnesota Distance Elite. She ran a personal best of 426.5 to take the win at the Ryan Shea Mile last summer. I recently heard a rumor that as a nature nerd, she likes to do her activation exercises outside amongst the crows. So I went outside looking for crows, and soon enough, I found Kaylee.
I think one of the big things I took away, I had kind of a unique experience where I did 5 years Division I, and then I went and did 1 year at a Division II school. And so I feel like I really got the chance to compare the two divisions. One of the big things I noticed was just the ability to like get to those higher level meets and have those national level races. You get more experience with that, and I think that's been big as a professional runner. Is I didn't have to try to jump into this field without any experience racing at those like high pressure meets and everything. So I have some of those under my belt, which has been, I think, kind of a really big deal. I don't know. I think also, like, you go to a school, you go to a D1 school, a D2 school, whatever, and everyone's there because they love running. And I think as you get to those smaller divisions, like, the love for running, the purpose for being there only really increases. You get people who are there for, you know, they didn't choose like the most top funded program. They didn't choose, I'm trying to word this how I want to, but they threw their heart into something because they have the love for it, and not because maybe they were given a full scholarship, not because maybe it was the most insane program in the country, but because like this is where they wanted to go. They wanted to throw their heart into something, and I think being surrounded by someone who feels the same and is also like competitive to a fault, I think that really only helped my growth as a runner and as a person.
Are you love crows? What is wrong with you?
Crows are cool.
They're so terrifying. They're like the most terrifying of.
Crows are in the Corvidae, right? Corvidae, one of the smartest bird families. Crows can recognize faces of human beings, which is insane. Crows can understand currency, and will bring you things in exchange for goods and services.
Get out! Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding!
The next person I wanted to speak with was Dakota. I don't think much has to be said about Dakota, as everyone knows the sheer amount of success she's had in the last couple of years, after graduating from Division II Northern State. I had heard a rumor recently that Dakota likes to go where the weather is, so I started driving, and as soon as I found good weather, I also found Dakota.
I think the reason that we're seeing a lot of D2 athletes excel in professional running is because we didn't have a lot of pressure in college, so we found our own way to love running and our own motivation in running. There was no expectation of us to, make NCAA meets or place at conference, so we found our success internally.
Finally, I spoke with Brianna Siraki. Brianna ran for Division II Minnesota Duluth and has since found an abundance of success racing on the roads. Last year, she ran a 1:10 half marathon and 2:33 for the full marathon. I'd heard a rumor that she oftentimes has children's nursery rhymes stuck in her head, so I went to the only place in the Twin Cities that someone with nursery rhymes stuck in their head would go at 6 a.m. on a Friday morning.
I feel like the biggest thing for me was just that D2 offered that balance between running as like a passion and having big goals with that, but also just life, being able to be involved in other like extracurriculars at UMD where I went to school, being able to go home on the weekend. So I think just when I left UMD, I felt like I had unfinished business and I still had a lot of room to grow, and I was still excited about growing. So I think that balance is really the key for me.
It seems that one of the reasons that Division II athletes have done so well with Minnesota Distance Elite is that they come out of college a little bit more hungry and a little less burnt out and are better able to hit their peak in the prime of their career. That combined with less pressure and more of an intrinsic motivation for running, as well as having more opportunities to really compete at a national level and compete for championships and wins, gives them a little bit of an unfair advantage over some of the other athletes on the team. If you want to see more of these amazing Division II athletes, as well as the other athletes on our team, hit the subscribe button down below. We've got lots more stories coming to you from Minnesota Distance Elite.